All right, so we're back again here. I got the Jeff McFall here, returning guest. I think it's a great day to do a video. We were trying to do it again last week. I didn't work out, but like I said, it could not be better timing. Everything that you talked about, Jeff, from charts, even though, as you know, I'm not a big fan of charts at all, especially when it comes to precious metals. I'm more of a just fundamentals guy, and you are both. I wish I was both. And it is playing out. We just had a pretty big drop. Silver was just few cents away from $30 an ounce. By the way, for those that are new into this crazy space, that doesn't mean you can get a physical coin actually at your front door for $30. It will be probably 35, in some cases 40, depends on what coin you're getting. Those are called premiums. But nonetheless, you talked about the First Majestic, stock ticker AG, has done a lot of big moves. You know, I'm in the Sibanye BSW has gone from $3.80 to close to $6. It's up 3% today. Who knows? I just want to really hear your take again. What do you see going on here with gold sitting at $2,400 for the first time ever?
Yeah, sure. And good to be back, man. I missed the few weeks that we didn't do one of these. Yeah. So it's been since we've been doing this whole series of interviews, and if you're watching this the first time and you haven't seen the previous ones, I would suggest going back and watching the whole thing. You can hold what Marco and I talk about here. You can hold us to account for it. But yeah, I mean, essentially, like one central theme I think we've talked about through this whole conversation that we've been doing is just this sense of reality that is coming about. And I think that's all it is. It's really just a, you know, from 2020 until present day, we've kind of been living in just a little bit of a fantasy world. I mean, quite frankly, we've been living in a fantasy world for a lot longer than that, but we've really been living in a fantasy world for the last 4 years. And you're just starting to see it. You're just starting to see it come to light. I think gold's just going to show us how much money we really printed or put onto digital screens or whatever, and silver's going to do the same thing. And we're just seeing that now being reflected in the dollar price, if you will, and the price of all the other currencies. And this is where it's nice too, from a fundamental standpoint and a technical standpoint of the charts. If you put the two together, you really start to be able to have a pretty formidable, team of you can do a lot of effective speculating if you put the two together. And essentially, what you can see over that, like if I were to take the technical chart of gold over the last 4 years, um, it would be that's the time where you enjoy the dream still, right? Of this, hey man, we can print trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars and have no real impact to it. That 4 year period on the 10-year or 12-year cup and handle, that's the end of the dream, right? That's the end of the dream, that handle. And when we broke out, I think the day that I really noticed it, I want to say that it was on the leap day year. I think it was February 29th, that gold did something funny, or maybe silver and gold both did something funny. And I was like, that's it. And sure enough, March was just a great month. And we ended up closing the quarter. It was a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, all closes right at the high, essentially. And you just don't see that very often. And anyways, you could see it right away in April when April opened up. I mean, we're doing $100 a week now, since the real breakout, and it's yeah. So you're gonna just see you got everybody too that's like, oh my god, they're really calling for a pullback and all that. I don't think that's gonna happen. I mean, if you not for a good while, that is. I mean, when you're looking at this is where the technical part really comes in handy. If you're looking at the technical part, this is not a just a couple year pattern or a couple day pattern. This is a decade long pattern, and you could even stretch it out further. And it's just now breaking out. I mean, we're just starting. And so you take the technical aspect of just the 10-year cup and handle, and if you do the measurement on it, somewhere around $4,000 would be a initial target out of this big cup and handle. So that's from the technical standpoint, and then the fundamental standpoint that we talk about too. Look at the world. Look at the world. You got wars popping off everywhere. You got consumer price inflation. You got all the stuff going on, obviously from the monetary front with the Fed, right? And just this week or last week or whatever it was with the inflation, it was this week with the CPI report. You got the president coming out immediately after and saying, I don't know what they got to do, but I guarantee you there will be a rate cut this year. I mean, we got that type of talk going on. This stuff is just so from a technical standpoint and then the fundamental standpoint. I mean, there's the only thing really left is the miners, right? And we're still saying that. Like, I'm looking at this today, I'm like, oh my god, First Majestic is down 1.5% on a day that like silver was just about to crack $30. I mean, to me, this is just I don't even know what to call it. It's complete disbelief. It's still that like I don't know, but every single gap up is sold off. That's fine. I personally, and not advice, I buy every single as it gaps up and it comes back, fills gas, I start buying. I mean, this is just it's so ridiculous. The last time silver was up, and I think Happy Hawaiian posted this. He's a guy on Twitter. If you don't follow him, he's a good
I
follow
do.
too.
I do. Yeah.
Yeah. So he just put out, he was like, well, so the last time silver was $29, First Majestic was 24. That's the type of world we're living in right now. And that's like, that's nothing but opportunity to me. And then, okay, so we've got that, right? There's a fundamental disconnect in that. And then if we look at the technical standpoint, and I just put up some stuff about it this morning, I've really been watching First Majestic close because it's just so clean. But you can see a series of patterns unfolding in that are pretty much identical. So if you look at what just happened over the last maybe 2 months, you have this big, it's called an island bottom reversal. And this is on a daily chart where there's a gap down and it comes down, makes this big loop, a cup at the bottom, and then it gaps up right roughly around the same spot that it gapped down on the other side, the other side. And these are really, powerful technical moves. So we did that, and we're essentially a double off the bottom. And again, we're going through this pullback or whatever right now. But if you look on a weekly chart, the same kind of pattern is forming on a weekly chart. Go back to like 2022, and there was a big gap down on the weekly chart, and we're working our way back up there. So I think what essentially we're going to see is a island bottom reversal on a daily chart, and then there's also going to be an island bottom reversal on a weekly chart. And at some point, the reality of the situation that silver's not going to stop at 30, it's not going to stop at 40, it's not going to stop at 50, it's probably not going to stop at 100. Gold's not going to stop at 2,500, 2,600, it's not going to stop at 3,000 or 4,000. It's this is a long-term problem that we have. That reality is going to set in the miners, and I don't know that the human mind will be able to adequately understand the type of moves that are going to come in those things. I mean, it's going to be ridiculous. I have every confidence in it that's going to happen. And so it's just nothing but an opportunity to me. That's kind of a big rambling monologue, but go ahead with any questions.
No, that was exactly why I asked you that. We haven't talked in a couple of weeks, so I just wanted to see what you see it from the technical and fundamental standpoint. As we started,
I mean, silver, for example, it looks to me like silver is at the same point as it was in May of 2020, right before you got those weekly candles that just went straight up. That looks like where we are right now, right before we get another one or two of these weekly candles. I think we're going to see a weekly pattern on silver, that big inverse head and shoulders. The first target out of that is somewhere around like 38. And if you think that thing gets to 38, like, given the type of environment that we're in, do we really think that's going to stop there? Like, maybe, yeah, there might be a little pullback and all that stuff, and maybe it comes back to 30 or whatever. But if people are not getting the point by this point, I've just stopped. I can't do anything. I mean, people are so determined to like measure their everything in the dollar, and it makes this magic trick for the powers that be so much easier to pull off when when you're just using the dollar to measure things. If you start measuring your wealth in ounces and you start measuring other things versus the dollar price of gold or silver, you get such a better understanding of what the value of things is. Like on the whole Bitcoin thing. And again, Bitcoin's still at $70,000. To me, Bitcoin has done a great job showing us about the currency debasement. Done a great job. If you look at it though, like cocoa has had this big run, and I'm not sure if we talked about this, but we talked a lot about ratios in one of our talks, right? The value proposition of something, understanding. And if you look as big of the run as Bitcoin has had up to $70,000, if you measure it in the dollar price of cocoa, it's collapsed, right? It's nowhere near the top. And so whether it be cocoa or copper or aluminum or wheat, corn, beef, any of these things, that's where we have to start measuring everything versus everything else, because the dollar as a unit of measurement is broken. It is broken. That's what happens when you go through these inflation periods, right? Like it's broken. And it's not broken to the point yet where the psychology is kicked in for every single person out there to start dumping these things as fast as they can, along with yen and yuan and euros and pounds and all the other fiat currencies. The psychology is not there yet all the way, but that's where we're heading. We are heading there. And the further up each one of these rallies goes in gold and silver, and the more no one can explain it, the more it's going to just be undeniable that we'll be lucky to escape a genuine hyperinflation, in my opinion. The first time I learned about all this stuff, I was like, oh, well, hyperinflation is actually built into the system, because you either, and this is where I agree, like Brent Johnson's thing, we're either going to collapse to zero or we're going to infinity. And the way that gold is behaving right now and the way that silver is behaving right now, that leads me to believe that, okay, we're going to infinity, right?
Bitcoin already showed us this. Bitcoin has been behaving like you mentioned, and the way Bitcoin has been behaving.
So now this is where for the Bitcoin people, if there are any that watch this, you have to be like, all right, okay, so Bitcoin is at $70,000 right now. Gold is at what, 2,400, 2,300. Silver is at 20. And you got to start measuring these things versus each other. Because again, Bitcoin in a world that I see could go to $1 million, and it still isn't going to buy you, a lot of cocoa, for example, right? Or copper, aluminum, beef, because the dollar at that point is toast. And maybe maybe at that point there'll still be enough people denying it that they can carry on. But I would have to imagine if we're at $1 million Bitcoin and say like $400,000 gold with $100,000 silver, I would have to think at that point, you're talking a loaf of bread's probably going to be somewhere around 50K. You know what I mean? Like, so we're getting to that point where you're really starting to see some crazy stuff happen. And the media doesn't get it. Like the number of why is gold going up type headlines I saw is just, it's insulting, quite frankly, because I've tried to make my entire Twitter account or X account strictly about documenting every day of what I saw happening from the day that I joined. I've been doing this longer than that, but if you go back to my entire Twitter feed is essentially one big chart of a 3 or 4 year inverse head and shoulders forming on silver. So nobody can pretend like we didn't know this was going to come. Just like Peter Schiff was given those conferences in 2006 to the mortgage bankers, nobody can use the excuse that this time that we didn't know what was happening, because it's not people like Peter Schiff that are just saying it now. It's people like you and me that are, like calling this stuff out years in advance, while our leadership is like, oh, how could we have known that it was transitory or whatever? I mean, it's so insulting well, I mean, it's insulting to me personally that we are literally looked at as a bunch of Neanderthals, essentially, by the people that run this show, and the game's just about up on that. I mean, so anyways, it's kind of a crazy time.
I got a couple of things to add on what you just said. So while we were talking, I've been paying attention, and believe it or not, silver has dropped an entire dollar. It is up 16 cents.
Yeah.
While we were and gold was
Yeah,
up $40 and now it's up 10. Again, to me, this is like if you're
yeah.
trading these paper contracts, to me, this is just
Oh
hysterical.
my God.
But just to go
Yeah.
back to just to
And
go
it's
back.
your funeral too, because it's going to get more. Anybody doing the paper contracts, I personally think they're going to get burnt. Maybe this happens in the mining world too, but I don't think so because they can't shut down trading on the entire mining world. They can shut down the COMEX. They can shut down the COMEX for sure and just be like, yo, no more, no more paper gold contracts being traded. You can't shut down all the mining, trading that goes on every day. But those contracts inherently have leverage in them. And so I guarantee you this morning, you had people seeing those candles going straight up in gold and silver, loading up on with leverage on these paper contracts, and then you get wiped out if you're the average guy doing that. I mean, so no way. This is a long, this is not a get rich quick thing. None of that nonsense. I mean, this is about we're essentially fundamentally reshaping how society is going to be organized. That's what is really happening here, and it's going to be organized on a hard money standard. Sorry, like that's the way it's going to be, and it has nothing to do with Russia and China, BRICS, or none of that stuff. It has to do with the fact that as soon as they built this system, the destruction of it was inherent within it. And they all knew it. Keynes knew it. They all knew it. And so why wouldn't you just run up the debt? Bix Weir has talked about this, and I agree with him. Run up the debt. They all are in cahoots with one another. They all caught, we all go through the real pain of these people that run the show. Wars are real. Real people die, real people are suffering, starving, all that stuff. But all these people at the top, personally, they're in cahoots. They all been running debt as hard as they can. And on a technical standpoint, you see those decade-long or multi-decade-long cups forming. That is people that know what is really going on buying. That is like those cups are like whatever it is, that is nature's way of showing that, hey, man, this is like something is coming out of this. And so we're going back on a metallic standard. I'm sorry. And maybe it's got a, maybe there's some funny crypto thing to it or whatever. But I'm pretty sure when this whole thing is said and done, we're not going to be measuring gold in ounces. We'll be measuring it in grams. And it's going to be a lot of zeros behind the gram. And you'll either benefit from it or you will suffer from it. And that's just the way it's going to be. It has nothing to do with anything else other than the leadership of the world taking advantage of their human subjects. I mean, that's we work to build them everything that they get, and then they devalue currencies, and we get screwed over, and that's over now. I mean, that is for real. It's over. It's done. Now, a lot of people are going to suffer because they haven't picked up on this, but enough people like you and me have picked up on it, and we got problems. You know what I mean? Like, there's problems. What is it? I'm pretty sure people like you and I are simply asking. We have grievances and they need to be addressed, and they're not going away. These grievances are not going away, and you're either going to address the grievances in a way that we can find solutions, or other things will happen outside of my control. That like people just get pissed. Sorry, when you can't afford food, pitchforks, right? Like, let them eat cake type stuff. It's just history, and I'm pretty sure we're just going to run this sucker into the ground at full speed. I'm pretty sure that's what we're doing right now.
I agree. I could not agree more. I got this tweet here I want to find. This is a very interesting one to kind of really put the picture and people's perspective together here. This is from Into the GOSSAN X account. Into the Gossen, I don't know how to, with my English, I'll butcher it. So GOSSN, a very interesting account. Silver hasn't had a weekly close above $28 in 10 years during the silver squeeze 2021 highs. Huge level. Market has done a great job shaking bulls who have been skeptical, fading on this move. So silver has not had a weekly close above $28, and we are today on a Friday, and they
Yeah.
are having silver drop. Right now, it is flat for today. For the day, it's actually in the red as we speak. Another 50 cents, if they can get another 56 cents, silver will close under $28. This is
Yeah.
how much madness we are dealing with here. This is almost turning
Yeah.
into meme stock at this point. And to
Oh,
go,
it is. It's going to be so it's going to be, and this is the part that is, if you didn't see this morning, so you've seen what happened in cocoa, right? Um,
parabolic.
who was it? Gold Ventures put up there today that the paper short position on silver is something like, it's like 3 times the size that of what cocoa was. And so whatever, like, he's right, people, there's going to be shakeouts and all that type of stuff. It's going to go up like this and come down. The thing is, that's, I guess, from a technical standpoint, it's already happened. Like, the nice thing about the technical stuff is you can, once you identify the pattern, it's already essentially happened, and you just have to wait for it and plan for it. And obviously things can happen where the pattern might break or what have you. But at this point, I would say the way that we're behaving in the last couple of days, the way we behaved this morning, and what happened with this slam this morning. And again, just from a technical chart, if you look across the line and what that guy's referencing at the $28 level, there's a whole bunch of wicks up there. And we talked about this in a previous interview on SLV. There's a huge weekly gap right around where we are. One of these Sunday nights, there's going to be a gap open. I'm talking like a significant one. And I've talked about it offline with some of these other people on X, that my ultimate, the way I see this unfolding is that when that happens, when that gap up happens on a Sunday night, it's the only thing that will actually get the miners to finally break out, because they are, it seems like there is still a ton of just automatic selling, right? So there's these algorithms at these whatever, at the hedge funds or institutions or whatever, that they just, they're just on autopilot. Sell. And every gap up sold off, every gap up sold off. And yet we're still going higher. All right. We still are going higher. Bob Coleman's been posting a lot about this on the short position on SLV. We've been going higher. Like, as they've been shorting it more, we've been going higher. So that's how you get a short squeeze, right? When there is just an uncontrolled move that happens that gets away from them, and then they ultimately have to buy at a big loss. And I think when that happens, we're going to get this gap up in SLV, and it will be significant enough that the miners gap some ridiculous number. Like on GDXJ or GDX, it maybe open with a 20 or 30% gap, something like that. On the juniors, maybe talking about opening with, a double, something like that. Something that just makes it undeniable where we are, what we've done, and where we're going. And that's kind of how I see this playing out. It's how I've postulated it in my head, so I don't freak out still on these days when it's like, we're gonna break 30, and then it's like, oh damn, we're at what, 28.43 in a matter, and it's been an hour.
Yeah,
I mean, when they come in and hit these things,
what
it
is
and maybe who knows what really goes on behind.
Was that 5%? What was it?
It was my high tick today was hang on one second, let me just I'll run the math on it real quick. The high tick was about 29.80, and we have fallen off in less than 2 hours for 4.85%.
Yeah.
And so that is, but again, I personally, in an hour and a half, personally, the way I look at it, that's a healthy thing. That's a healthy thing where we are right now, because what I don't want, or what none of us should want as silver investors, is for some for a couple reasons. First, a literal runaway move, we'd be in a hyperinflation. We got real problems to deal with. The other one would be you get some massive spike like the Volkswagen short squeeze, however many years ago, and it comes straight back down. And that's not what I'm aiming for here. I want to be able to I want to just continue working in life, and the world may not be on a gold or silver standard yet, but I am, and I would like to continue to take my earnings and turn them into real things. And the cheaper they stay, the better. We've already broken the pattern, though. This is very short time we got here. I mean, we'll see what happens over the weekend. But any number of people I've seen, and I'm sure you've heard them all too, that have been in the industry for a long time, they're like, I've never seen gold move like this. I've never seen silver move like this. And talking about I think I even heard people say from the 70s. I personally, that seemed like some pretty crazy stuff to me, but who knows? This is our chance to get to experience it. And, it's the important thing is for us is to make sure we can't, you and I as individuals and anybody that sees this, we got to make sure that we do our little part to not get ourselves involved in, and we have very limited control over this, like a legit nuclear war. I personally don't think that's going to happen, but what we want to do is just know that they are what this is really about is devaluing the debt, right? So they've all run up this debt. They need us to be distracted, and they are going to scare the living shit out of us to try and either fight each other, fight with each other, get the spotlight as far away from them as possible while they devalue the debt, right? So if you go back, if you value our debt versus gold, where it reached in 1980, right? For it to reach the same ratio, if you take the total U.S. debt and divide it by the price of gold, right? In 1980, to get back to where we were when gold was at 850 and the debt was whatever it was at that point, $1 trillion, we need $32,000 gold. And that's based off of numbers that I ran in December. We've probably done another 2.5 trillion on top of that since then. So we're probably now closer to, 35,000. But that's just to get to where we were in 1980 on a relative debt to price of gold basis. And I don't think people are ready for that. I think it'll scare people enough that the psychology starts to kick in and we get a genuine worldwide hyperinflation. I think that cannot be taken off the table, because if regular people start seeing gold ounce bars at Costco for $8,000, they're going to freak out. They're going to freak out, and they're going to start watching videos like this, or they're going to find Hidden Secrets of Money, or they're going to find Chris Marcus or Chris Martenson or any of these other guys that have been waving their hands for years. They're going to find those guys and they're going to freak out, and they're going to do exactly what they say. They're going to sell every single thing that they have to try and protect what they have worked their life for. And it's going to be insane. It's going to be insane. We'll just have to see how it all shakes out. But again, a lot of just me yapping. But it's obviously an exciting time. Lots going on. And
yeah.
So if any other specific questions, jump in. Let me know.
I decided, we're going to wrap up in about 2 minutes. We got about 2 minutes. I decided to wear a King sweatshirt today. And I did post, you'll find my tweet today or whatever post that I said, it looks good, but the Crimex is opening in 3 minutes. So I was already very skeptical. It was at 8:27 a.m. Central Time when I tweeted that, and one person asked me, you can see that, and said, what do you mean by that? I said, well, this I just knew the move was a little too crazy all of a sudden. I like the one that was steady, like you saw, from 20 to 2100, then a little pullback, and then go back up the grind. That's what gold does. It goes back to that. So I just wanted to, like I said, to wear a King shirt, because like I said, my wife looks at me like, you buying more of these metals. And, I feel like justified. Once gold got over 2000, I started buying at 1300 when I started my channel. It's not advice. It's just something that I choose to do. And to finish that off, I am 100% agreeing with you, not because we are having the same mindset. I would have been like, no, I just don't see that on this one. I would definitely, stop you and say, this is my opinion on this. When you said that we're going to be valuing everything in grams, yeah, you don't buy an ounce of gold to go barter for bread. And I got a minute left here. I will go to next video when we do, hopefully next week or the week after. I want to go over this George Gammon thing that he talked about, that he went to Argentina and all that, and how people didn't want to get gold. I want to go into that with you, and I'm going to tell you my personal experience, what I've seen during hyperinflation, that it peaked. Listen to this number, 313 million% in 1 month. Okay, so Argentina is not in hyperinflation if their annual inflation is 275%. That's obviously ridiculous amounts, but that's not hyperinflation. So
it's not.
I really want to go over that with you next time. Please remind me. And when it comes to this, I will add a few more seconds for Bitcoin too. Like everybody knows I have beef, right? That's what I do for business. I want to have beef for myself. If somebody's asking me, do I want to take Bitcoin? I'm not saying no. I just tell them I'll give you some beef for when the Bitcoin is at 6,000. They don't understand that. But if they ask me gold or silver, I immediately say yes, regardless of what price those two items are.
Because you're taking the ounce. It's the weight.
Correct.
It's the weight.
So that would be it for that. I really appreciate you coming in today again. And I cannot wait to go over George Gammon's video. Please look it over when we finish today. I'll find my various tweet about the sweatshirt, knowing that I can be slammed. It did happen. I'm not proud of it, but I know how the paper contracts work. It is not real. What is real is this. This right here is real. And I'm not showing it to show it off. This right here is not going anywhere. Okay, this is 24 karat platinum, and that's gold. That's me. Yes, and that's what I buy. And I don't buy any more gold. I'm done buying gold because I would take beef. I mean, I would give beef for gold, but that's it. So I just wanted to.
This is about the only gold I own. I own very little gold because it's overvalued versus silver.
And now it's time to stack up. For me, platinum is number one, but it's not investing and trading advice.
Right.
So thank you, Jeff. We will talk soon. We are out for today. Thank you so much for listening. See you.